Well, hello, everybody. Hey, everybody. This is Step The Educator, and welcome to another episode of Essential Pedagogy Podcast. I'm so excited to be here tonight. I'm always excited because, I like to talk, y'all. But I just want to let you guys know that it's always my hope that as a result of listening to this podcast, that people within our profession and outside of our profession grow in compassion for one another by being exposed to more nuanced information about the educational system in America, and especially I'm in Texas. So just wanted to give you guys like insight that a lot of people don't know about education, and just bring special people in my life and across education to talk to you guys more about what we deal with and the way we see the world and how we move through the world. So I have a special guest. His name is Daryl Williams, and I am so excited to Williams Jr. Okay. I'm so
you can put all of it on there. Daryl Williams Jr., all of it.
Yeah, all of it. He is such an inspiration. I saw a video of his come across, because I'm all education stuff, that come across my social media. And I saw one of his videos and I reached out to him and I was like, hey, not trying to get somebody on my show, just saying, hey, I'm so happy to see an African-American educator.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't see African-American men educators much in our industry, or just men.
Right, this is 2%, 1.8%.
Yeah, like it's not common. So I was just giving him ups, right? And then he sent me information about his book, and I started like, excited. You wrote a book. So I invited him to the podcast and I bought the book, and I got even more excited because the book is just awesome. In case you don't know, he wrote a book, 99% Human.
Look at the sticky notes. I'm impressed by the sticky notes. That shout out to you.
Right? I've been reading and taking notes and everything. I think it's an awesome, awesome book. Daryl has spent many years in education as a math teacher. I have some good math friends, y'all. I admire math teachers so much because I teach science and we just tend to click, right?
No, yeah.
Yeah. So he taught middle school math. I like that because middle school is so unique. He was an instructional coach for a while, and now I think you still function as a assistant principal.
Yep, just got home about 2 hours ago for my championship game. I don't even know if we won yet because I had to leave early.
Oh my gosh! Well, thank you so much for making time. I know time is precious to you, especially as an assistant principal. That's one reason why I did not choose to go that route, because all the time after school, a lot of people don't know that, but you got to spend a lot of time after school.
Yeah. And we're a K-8, so we're spread pretty wide among all the things that we have to do. So yeah, it's a lot.
Excellent. That's awesome. And that's a unique niche. That K through 8.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting. You have the DuckTales and Bubbles to I might have some vapors in the bathroom.
Yeah. So we have it broken down between K4 is downstairs and 5-8 is upstairs. So we always call them upstairs problems and downstairs problems. And they're completely different. Like them upstairs problems that's a different world up there.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's dope. But I want to talk to you a little bit about your book. Mm-hmm. Today's podcast is called Hope for the Future, because I feel like this book made me want to go to my Bible and be like, what? Well, what?
Not the
Well,
Bible.
you know, and was like, wow, well, this is giving me a little bit of hope
Hmm.
here on earth, right? So, right away, I knew you were a believer, and
Hmm.
I was thankful to. I got little whiffs of it, even though you did not just put in there like, "Hey, I go to church. I'm an avid church goer." But I mean, there were things like, giving from a full cup and not an empty cup.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
there were just some cornerstone sayings you had in there that just made me. I was like, I bet she's a believer. And then I
yeah.
saw
Because
more.
because it's my story. It's my story of transformation from starting as a terrible teacher and transitioning to a two-time teacher of the year. And I can't tell my story without talking about my beliefs and ideologies of how I got to where I am and how I made it over, right? So that's it's weaved in there all throughout.
Yes, I love the fact that you have quotes all throughout your book.
Hmm.
You have QR codes that make you become more interactive and
Yeah.
help you to solidify your learning or in just self-reflection. I love it. I love it a
Hmm.
lot. It's an easy read. It just made my heart warm. I'm just excited. Just excited. Golly, it gives you ways to avoid being overwhelmed, which I
Yeah.
feel like that's very important to every educator.
Huge, huge. Yeah.
Talk to me more about like, I know what kind of led you to write this book,
Hmm.
but just more personal information about what made you say, "Hey, I need to sit down and write a book about getting educators to the next level of excellence."
Yeah. The book was put onto me by somebody else. I don't regret it, but it wasn't my idea. It
Okay.
wasn't my idea at all. But I mean, I think I would have to go back to about 2021 when I started sharing content and teacher tips and things like that. When that's kind of when I started the whole business and started my YouTube channel and sharing content online. But really, because that's when I was transitioning from instructional coach to assistant principal. And what I noticed was as I was coaching others, so many people were struggling with the things that I used to struggle with. And it was giving me flashbacks. And I was like, oh man, I can't stand this. And
Yeah.
it's crazy because literally today we had a guest speaker come and talk to our students, and he was asking them, what do you define passion as? And a lot of people said that passion is what they love. And then he said, well, I want to push you. I think that passion is actually driven by what you hate. And it was like, what do you mean? He said, a lot of times our passion is based on like the trauma that we've experienced or the things that we've been through, the things that we hate that we don't want anybody else to have to go through. So we're passionate about doing something about it. And
Mhm.
that's what I figured out. My passion, like I hated struggling as a new teacher. Right? And that wasn't me. That was Reggie Key. I'm gonna give him his credit. He came to the school today. Phenomenal speaker. And it just really made me think. So I was really passionate about helping other younger teachers because I hated struggling as a young teacher. So that's when I just turned on the camera and started recording content. But to answer the book portion of it, my coach, because we should always have coaches that kind of help us get to the next level. He
Mhm.
was like, you have a lot of videos, you have a lot of content, you got TikToks, you have YouTube. That's cool. And you're growing a following. That's amazing. But what we need to do or what you can do is put that into a book because that's going to be more receptive for teachers. So even like I didn't know that that's how we kind of connected, Steph. But even what you were saying, you saw a video, and videos are cool. Like you spend 30 seconds with me, maybe a minute and a half, maybe you watch a couple of videos. But then once you find out there's a book, you binged hours of that content. You see what I'm saying? Like you
Yeah.
binged hours of that book, and you really were able to do a deep dive and really internalize the information. So he was saying you already have the content within you. We just have to put it in a different medium, not just these videos, but now let's take those videos and make it a book. So we made a book, a course, and we have the videos as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I really feel like since I am a book reader, everybody isn't. I
Yeah.
realize that I'm a book reader, that resonated with me. And since I'm an educator, I've like educated people write things down.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
uh, we write things down. And so I'm like, no, this is good. This is interesting. So I really
Mhm.
enjoyed the book. I really did. And I'm so happy you wrote it. I'm going to recommend it to everybody I know, and I mean everybody. I've already sent the cover to some people.
That's
Um,
awesome. And That's amazing. We just want to expand the impact as far as possible, and similar to like districts would really be on board with like getting books for book studies for their teachers or for schools rather than just forwarding YouTube videos. So that's
Yeah,
another reason why.
yeah, this is really dope. What really resonated with me, and I know there's some great content in this book, but what really resonated with me is in chapter 6, you named that chapter your differences are not your deficiencies.
Right.
And I can't pinpoint the year I realized that. Um, but I did at one point in my teaching style shifted.
Mm.
It shifted to be from being super formal because
Uh-huh.
when I started in the district that I am in, there wasn't a lot of Black and brown people teaching,
You
and
never
that
are.
I know. and um, and I had Black teachers growing up, but
Mhm.
I I don't know. It's just that I think there were generations or times where people shifted from education, or Black and brown people shifted from education because maybe it wasn't
Mhm.
as a money maker. Um, and and so then I became an eighth grader's first Black teacher. You know,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah. So I was ultra formal, and I tried to
Mm.
really pick my words carefully at first, but then when I relaxed and, and found my rhythm with,
Yeah.
class and school, and really was being myself in the
Mhm.
classroom, when I thrived even more because the kids could see I was human, right? They
Yeah.
can relate to me more. And so I feel like that helped me make a shift in my teaching style where I'm a lot more relatable. Um,
Yeah.
I
It's
felt like I was a lot more effective.
It's crazy because that we have a very similar story. Like that was me. I'm like, I have to come in as this person. I used to like wear fake glasses and I used to wear a blazer. Like I have to come in as this guy to connect with students. But we don't similarities is what allows us to connect, but differences allow us to impact. And that I think that's the quote that you were pulling out from that chapter. And I think when we allow our differences to live, that's when we can make a difference in somebody else's life, because the differences are the things that you do that are unique that nobody else can tap into but you. But a lot of times that's the things that we hide instead of highlight. So I think it's
Yes.
cool that you found it at some point and said, let me just be Steph, right? And then that's how you're able to make an impact.
Yes. I feel like that was a great thing to highlight in the book. I think a lot, if people would learn that earlier, or teachers that learn that earlier on in their
Yep.
career, I mean, it makes a huge difference.
Hmm.
And then it leads to run your race, which is really, really, really good. You got to run your own race. Close your
Your
door,
race.
your thing, not worry about what the outsiders are doing.
Yeah. And it's crazy because I think because that definitely came from literally on the track, because I coach track as well, which I love. And that that literally came on the track where I mean there's multiple different types of races. There's either you run a mile, you running 100 meter. That's completely different
That's different,
strategy.
different than a
Completely
quarter.
different.
I used to run the quarters.
Oh, okay. See, I wasn't a 400 runner. I was a long distance guy. So I did the 800, the 1,000, and the mile. That was that was me. But I didn't train with the sprinters, right? I didn't train with the long jumpers. I didn't train with the shot putters. So it's the same thing. Sometimes we're running a sprint, but we're emulating those teachers that are running a mile. And it's like, man, I just wish I could do things just like him or her. And you're not even called to do that. Like that's not not even your race. So
Yeah.
identifying what your race is and then having the ability to run your race. That's how you're gonna make the impact.
I agree. I agree 100%. In chapter 12, you were talking about fantasy versus reality.
Hmm.
I want to talk about that a little bit more. Why did you put that into the book? Um, and what did you want the impact to be from that chapter?
Because ooh, let's it just hit me and I'm gonna go it hit me and I'm gonna go with it. Because
Okay.
so they say a lot of people get divorced. This isn't in the book, but they say a lot of people get divorced. If you look at the reason for divorce, It's not just synthesized down to just finances or communication. The overarching reason why people get divorced is because there was unmet expectations. Whatever that expectation was, whether it wasn't finances or communications or intimacy, whatever it was, the expectations weren't being met. That's why the two decided to part. And the same thing can be said, I think, about with like education and teachers that decide to part ways with it. Because when there's an expectation that this is going to be the reality, and now that's not matching, because the expectation is not being met, now I'm going to go do something else. So what I wanted to do is really kind of give a clear expectation, a clear reality. This is your reality. It's not a fantasy. It's the reality. So the fantasy that a lot of people fall into is that things are going to look a particular way. For example, we're going to set these goals and we're going to reach them. And sometimes it's not an internal fantasy. Sometimes a fantasy is set by like the decision makers. Like, we're gonna set goals this way. We're gonna pretend like the pandemic didn't happen and students aren't 2 years behind, and we're just gonna keep on pushing them on, right? Like, we're gonna set this fantasy that students are all coming in on the same grade level, that students are not gonna be diagnosed with ADHD and they can sit in their seats and listen. Like, we're gonna have this fantasy that everything is perfect, right? And that we can stick to the pacing guide and spend a day and a half on this lesson and just move on. And sometimes the fantasy was painted, and because we get locked into the fantasy, when our reality doesn't meet that fantasy, then we feel like this isn't what I signed up for and I need to leave.
Yeah, you feel defeated.
Yeah. Because you're up against unrealistic expectations. Yeah. So what I wanted to do was to call out the fantasies, but then really name your reality and help you to fall in love with the reality of the situation. Because when you have realistic expectations and understand that this is my reality, some students are going to be behind. I'm going to have to differentiate. Some students are going to need this from me. I'm going to have to show up in that way. When you realize that this is the reality, but this is what I get to do, the impact that I get to make, like the difference I get to make on this world, then that's a mindset shift. That's now we can stay grounded in this work because we're in love with the reality of it.
So what I call that, sometimes you're not in love with the reality. It's just, what I like.
You can be.
I understand, but I'm not always in love with it. I will say this though.
Go ahead.
Just like your mention of marriage, I feel like when you're in a marriage, you have to have a commitment, a joint commitment to the commitment. I may not like you. You may not like me all the time, or you may not be happy with me, or I may not meet all your expectations, and you may not meet all my expectations, but I have a commitment to the commitment. So, so every one foot in front of the other, I have a commitment to do this, and it may not look great right now, but I have a commitment to the commitment.
Yeah, right? There's definitely going to be, 100%. There's definitely going to be those moments, but you're still in love with the spouse, know, even though, like you said,
I still am highly passionate about education. So you're right. Every day.
Yeah. So even though the reality is not perfect, and that's the difference. It's not the perfection, right? It's the fact that it's reality, that it is flawed, that there are some days that you like more than others, that there's some moments that are great and some that are not. But the reality of it, when you look at it holistically at everything, like, I love this thing, flaws and all.
Yeah. Okay. I like that very good. I like that. I like that. I love the fact. I mean, I feel like this whole book is therapy. I just
really.
Yeah. I feel like it's therapy. Your chapter 13 says you are enough.
Yep.
I feel like that's therapy because a lot of people inside and outside of education struggle with understanding whether they are enough. No matter how much people on the outside try to portray to other people that, they're great by whatever they're flossing or wearing or, doing. I feel like a lot of people struggle with whether they are enough. And so that translates into the classroom.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that. Why did you put that in the book?
For the exact reason that you mentioned. Not enough people realize that they are enough. They consistently strive to be better or different, when the reality is who you were made to be is exactly who somebody else needs to see. Just who you are. exactly who somebody else needs, and the connection that only you can make. There are things that each of us have access to that literally nobody else on this world can. That's where the title 99% of human, 1% amazing comes from. We are literally fundamentally at our core, based in our DNA, we are literally 99% the same. You can look it up. Our DNA, all humans' DNA is 99% the same. There's 1% that is different, less than 1% that is different, that differentiates us from every other human that's on this planet. Which what I like to believe, like since we went biblical, let's get biblical, right? I believe that God is an intentional God. If he wanted it to make us, if he wanted to make us all different, he would have. We would be 1% similar, 99% different. But he said, I'm going to give you just one little 1%, something real unique about you that's going to leave this impact that only you can make. And because that is inside of you, you are enough, like just who you are. What I wanted to help teachers be able to do through this book is to match their unique gifts and talents that only they have with best practices. Because I believe that once you fuse the two, that's when you can lead to immense impact, right? So
Absolutely.
you already are enough in yourself. Now, let me go ahead and give you some strategies that can help you have immense impact.
Okay. You talk about in your book transitioning from instructional coach to assistant principal.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that your gifts are more used is being an assistant principal or instructional coach?
I make sure that my gifts are used wherever I am. If I had to choose a particular role, if I had to choose a particular role, I think innately, like on paper, instructional coach is more in line with what I bring to the table. Now, I make it work in the assistant principal role, but I think on paper, I go with the instructional coach. The reason why is because the instructional coach is more focused on instructional coaching, like focus
Yeah.
on instruction, focus on coaching. I'm in there with teachers and helping to implement best practices, which is what I do. And then with the assistant principal, there's that as well as so many other things, which I always like to say, like after school games and busing logistics and parent conferences and things that I still do well with, but it takes me away from that one-on-one time and that coaching with the teachers. So that percentage is smaller. So that's why I say it just service level instructional coach.
Yeah, but I think your impact is here with the instructional coach, right? Like I think that is going to be covering this in the future. You're going to
Yeah.
have a lot of great things coming from that book. I promise you. Um,
Let's see.
I have a couple of questions I like to ask everybody.
Yeah.
So, what do you think the world needs more of today?
I think the world needs more great teachers.
Yeah,
And I say, nah, for
we
real.
don't have enough of those.
No. And when I say great, so I always say that good teachers teach subjects and great teachers teach students.
Mhm.
So when I say great, I'm really being intentional with the word great because there's a difference between good and great. Good teachers are going to show up. Good teachers are going to do the job, clock in, clock out, teach the subject, and move on, which is fine. And I think we need good teachers as well.
Mhm.
But great teachers are going to go above and beyond the extra mile, and they're going to teach students, like give students the things that they need in order to be successful human beings. And I was just having a conversation with somebody about this the other day, and they were saying, "Well, that's not my job. That's the parents' job. Like the parents are supposed to raise them. I'm here to teach them." And I was like, "Oh, okay, like that's good. That's what good teachers do."
Mhm.
But the reality of the situation is some people are still coming with those deficiencies, whether parents are not teaching them because they don't want to, because they don't know how, or because of some other reason. Fact of the matter is, kids are growing up not being nurtured the whole child. Like
Oh,
maybe they'll get content, right? But they don't have the character development. They don't have those soft skills. They don't have behavior, right? And good teachers, they're just going to focus on the standards. But great teachers are going to go above and beyond and make sure that they impact the whole child. And I think if we have more great teachers in the world, then we'd have more great humans, and the world will be a better place.
yeah. I have, even though sometimes I resent this part of my job, but I feel like I've shifted a little bit more than I ever have before
Hmm.
into a from just teaching a student to teaching their parents a little bit.
Ooh, that's different. That's tough.
Yeah, it is tough. Having difficult conversations about, you know, your child is tardy. It's like the 60th time. I need to talk to you about that. Well, he need to be here. You need to be there on time. And I'm like, well, your child tells me this. Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to talk to him after, when he gets home from school. I said, no, you don't have to do that now. I'm gonna bring him into the hallway so we can talk.
Mm.
And we've had to have hard conversations. Like the son's like, no, Dad, you get me here at 8:15 every day. I'm sorry. Like he had
Dang. Not
so
throwing the parents under the bus.
well, the parent was trying to throw the kid under the
Yeah,
bus.
true,
So I
true.
had to bring it all out to the surface. Who's really telling the truth, right? I knew the child was telling the truth. I knew the
Mhm.
child wanted to be there. So, and tell you the truth, somebody late to first period 60 times, you know,
Mm. Yeah,
between now
that's
and the
not the
beginning
kid.
of the year, that's not the kid. That is the parent. And so, I mean, I made an impact because now the child is late for school. Isn't late for school, but I'm having to
Mm.
have these conversations more and more.
Yeah,
Like,
and you have to do that sometimes.
yeah,
But that's what I'm talking about when I say great teachers, because that was a great act by you. Whereas a good teacher would just, follow whatever consequence system. So let me just write it up or whatever. That kid is late 60 times. But a great teacher recognizes, no, you can't just not prioritize punctuality, like beyond just this classroom. So
yeah,
by you having that conversation, now you're growing within him that transferable skill, that soft skill, that punctuality matters, right?
yeah. So I mean, that's just one of the things that I don't know if I'm a great teacher, but I'm feeling like
You
I'm being
probably are. You probably are.
pulled, pulled to do that more and more, and it makes me feel uncomfortable. But I'm like, something gotta give, like something gotta happen, right? I gotta.
God,
I feel like I'm going to war sometimes. I'm like, something. I'm tired of this. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna make this change, and it may
yeah.
not be something that, um, on a wide scale, that administration is able
Hmm.
to deal with or handle or whatever, or have the impact that a teacher would. I think like there's calls that go out
Hmm.
automatically when they reach a certain amount of tardies and things
Oh
like
yeah,
that. The impact that a teacher called and said, hey, there's a problem and I need your help in solving this. I
right.
think that helped. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, do you think school hours should be cut in half? You think
Me?
kids are
No.
more
Oh,
productive? Do you think that?
I would say no, but that's based off of my experience, right? So out
Yeah,
of all the school, I'm always in Title I schools. I'm always in low income schools. That's where I've been for the last. This is year 10 for me. So for the last 9 years, that's all I know. And in our population, a lot of times the safest place to be for multiple reasons, the safest place for students to be is in school. One, because obviously they have to get the academics right, but also two, if they're not in school, what are they doing, right? What are they doing when they're not here? And also parents are working. Parents have stuff to do as well. So when if the students go home at noon, a lot of times I don't know who would even be watching them. There are some other communities in which there will be maybe a parent at home, during the daytime, but yeah, based off my experience, I definitely think that the amount of time we spend in school is sufficient.
oh, and there's statistics that say that child abuse went up over the pandemic when they were.
That is true. My wife is a social worker, and yeah, so she was working she was working during the pandemic as well, obviously, but yeah, when we talking about the home visits that she was doing, bruises, skyrocket. Yeah, absolutely.
That is insane, but I'm not going to say anything about how they're safer in public schools than they're in their own homes. But anyway, um, um, we are running low on time, and I knew we would because I just knew we would have so much to talk about. But I want to talk about the greatest lesson you've learned from someone,
Mm.
the greatest lesson someone has learned from you, you think?
All right, let me go with the greatest lesson that somebody's learned from me. And somebody shared this with me recently, and It's tough for me to quantify things like greatest and favorite. I even when people ask me my favorite artist, it changes day to day. Sometimes it's Jonathan McReynolds, sometimes it's Burna Boy. You know, like I'm like it depends. It might be Usher right now. I don't know, but so favorite greatest is tough, but definitely somebody shared with me recently. She was one of my mentees, and she said the biggest thing was kind of what I just mentioned earlier was helping her realize how not to be the next best version of anybody else, but how to be the very best version of herself and make the impact that only she can. And she was like, just you helping me see that I can match my unique God-given gifts, talents, and abilities and take it with proven practices and best principles and put those two things together. She said that most people don't do that. And that was a lesson that she learned from me. And um that's something that I teach everybody. I really help you unpack your zone of excellence, I like to call it, the 1% about you that makes you different and unique, and match it with the things that helps you be successful. Because when I was doing my research to figure out, it's in the book, when I was struggling the most and trying to figure out how I could be a successful teacher, I started studying other leaders, and I realized that so many different people. We talking Oprah, we talking Obama, right? We're talking even like people who are successful in other industries like Bill Gates and things like that. There was no step-by-step way to reach success. No step-by-step, this is exactly what you do to be successful. Everybody met success through their own unique path, but there's certain principles that they followed along the way. So I was like, oh, boom, that's the nugget for me. The unlock was there are principles, but you take the principles and you sprinkle your own little uniqueness, your own little amazing, right? And do it your own way. And that's what's going to lead to success. And that's what I help people understand how to do. And she was like, yeah, that was an unlock for her. And that's what she says, the greatest thing I could have taught her.
Okay, good. So, what's the greatest lesson you've learned?
I'm going to keep it brief and I'm going to go with the one I mentioned earlier today. And I'm not going to say it's the greatest. Sorry if this isn't answering the question. I'm going to say it's the most recent. But because that really, when he was speaking to the students today, Dr. Key, when he was speaking to the students today, it really made me think, man, what am I passionate about? He said, your genius is your passion plus your talent and your purpose. He said at the intersection of your passion, your talent, and your purpose is your genius. And he was like, so the passion is the thing that you hate. Like what is burning on your heart that you say, I can't stand this? Is it homelessness? Is it when people are not treated fairly? For me, it's when people are forced to live a life that they settle for. Like they just live in paycheck to paycheck, or they're just doing this thing because they have to, because they don't have the choice or the option to do something else. That's a pain point for me. So he said your pain point is alludes to your passion, and then you meet that with your talents, which what I like to say is your unique gifts and talents, right? And then you add your purpose to it, like the thing that you are passionate about, that you can do something about, and at the intersection of those three things, oh yeah, that's your genius. That's the thing that only you have access to. So I was like, man, he gave me that today, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna find out what my genius is, and we're gonna make this impact.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, guys, I feel like this book is packed with so much professional development. I think it is an awesome read. I think it's just, it's touching and I love it. And I'm going to let everybody know about it. I think the question that was on the screen is the book also audible on Audible or in an audible form?
It's not yet, but I tell you, if you go to the book link now, that 1percentamazing.com/get my book, which might have been coming up on the screen or in the show notes or something. If you go to that link, it'll help me get your email address so I can let you know when the audiobook is available, because right now it's not, but I am going to record it. I just got to, maybe I got to take a day off or something, just sit down for about 6-7 hours, 6-7 hours, and just read through the whole book. But I just haven't recorded it yet, but I will do an audiobook this year.
Oh, that's good. I am not going to keep you very long because I know you had a long day as an administrator. Tell your wife thank you so much for sharing you this evening.
Absolutely.
Is there any parting words you want to tell everybody before we go?
I always tell everybody the same thing, right? Although you are 99% a human, you are 1% amazing. who you were made to be is exactly who somebody else needs to see. So don't hide that, but highlight it. And when we do that, we can make the impact that only you can make, and we can help as many children as possible be able to live the life that they choose and not the life they're forced to settle for. So I appreciate you doing what you do and keep doing it.
Thank you so very much.
Absolutely.
Remember, everybody, we are on first and third Thursdays, Essential Pedagogy. My wonderful producer, Kesha, I really appreciate you. And I just want to invite you guys to the next show, the first Thursday of March. The third Thursday of March, I'll be back in town because I'm taking a vacay the second week of
We need it.
Taking a vacay, yay! And I want everybody to tune in, guys. I got so many surprises that's coming up. I'm hoping to get my own YouTube channel and get it right. Like, it's not gonna be perfect, but it's gonna be out there soon. So thank you so much, Daryl. I really appreciate you. I wish all the success for this book in the future. I don't even have to wish it because I know it's going to happen.
It's there. Let's do it.
It's there. And your heart is right. And I really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you, Steph. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. And I'll see you in 2 weeks, Thursday.